Hello, and welcome to tonight's journey. I invite you to step back in time with me to feudal Japan, to walk alongside a samurai during the tumultuous Sengoku-era. This will be an immersive, first-person experience. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. Now, find a cozy spot, close your eyes if you like, and let the ambient sounds of a distant era guide your imagination. Our story begins in darkness, just before the first light of dawn. I awaken in darkness, my eyes opening to the faint gray light seeping through paper shoji screens. The air is cool and still. For a moment, I lie listening to the silence before dawn. No voices, only the distant trill of insects, and the gentle rustle of a breeze through pine branches outside. My hand rests instinctively on the hilt of my sword lying at my bedside. Even in sleep, I never stray far from my blade. It's an old habit of caution in these uncertain times. I sit up on my woven tatami mat and quietly fold my bedding. In the pale light, I can just make out the familiar shapes of my small room. The polished wooden stand holding my armor in the corner, the low writing desk with a scroll neatly rolled atop it, and a simple altar shelf with a tiny flickering oil lamp that has burned through the night. The scent of burnt oil and sandalwood incense from yesterday's prayers still lingers. I take a deep breath, letting the cool air fill my lungs. Dawn is approaching, and a new day of duty begins. Moving slowly so as not to wake my household, I slide open the shoji door. The wooden frame glides silently, and I step out onto the narrow Engawa porch that runs along my home. My wife and child still slumber in the adjacent room. I heard my infant son fussing in the night, but now he is quiet. I pause and glance back at their silhouette through the paper screen, grateful for their peaceful rest, and then step outside. The sky is a deep blue-black overhead, just hinting at the coming sunrise in the east. A few last stars still shimmer. Goosebumps rise on my arms in the pre-dawn chill, but I welcome the briskness. It helps drive away any remnants of sleep. In the yard, dew clings to the stepping stones and the moss around our little stone lantern. I bow my head briefly in the direction of the family shrine by the entrance gate, murmuring a silent greeting to my ancestors and the kami of the morning. Beside the porch sits a ceramic basin filled with water drawn from our well. I roll up the sleeves of my light cotton yukata and dip my hands in. The water is shockingly cold. I feel it jolt my senses fully awake. With cupped hands, I splash it over my face and shaved head. The frigid water trickles down, tracing along my jaw and neck. I suppress a small gasp at the cold, and instead inhale deeply, savoring the purity. This simple act of washing feels like a ritual purification to greet the day. Drips fall from my chin as I straighten and exhale, seeing my breath in the air. I take a moment to comb back my damp hair and tighten the cord of my top knot. In the dim light, I run a thumb along the edge of my jaw. Perhaps I will need to shave tomorrow. A slight stubble pricks my skin, but for today, it will pass. My reflection stares back faintly from the dark water in the basin, calm, focused, and ready. Returning indoors, I kneel at the small Buddhist altar, Butsudan, tucked into the corner of our living space. The altar holds a faded scroll with calligraphy of the Heart Sutra, a brass incense burner, and a wooden plaque bearing my father's name. I light a stick of incense from the still glowing oil lamp wick, press my palms together, and close my eyes. In the stillness, I offer a quiet prayer for guidance, for strength, for the safety of my family and the honor of my lord. The incense smoke curls upward, carrying my hopes into the air. I bow deeply, touching my forehead to the tatami, and remain there for a few extra heartbeats, embracing the tranquility before the day's demands commence. Outside, a lone rooster crows, its call echoing from a nearby farm. Dawn is very near. I rise and carefully slide shut the shoji. My sleeping wife stirs faintly at the soft thud of the door, but she does not wake. By the time she and our little boy emerge, I will likely be well into my morning drills. I smile softly at the thought of them rising after me, starting their own routines of cooking and tending the hearth. It gives me comfort to know they will have a peaceful morning at home. In the corner stands my armor on its wooden rack. The lacquered cuirass and helmet glint even in the low light, a silent reminder of my duty. But I will not don the armor today unless necessary. For now, a simple training uniform will suffice. I dress in a plain indigo kimono and hakama trousers, tying the sturdy cloth belt firmly around my waist. Over this, I slip on my well-worn kataginu vest with its angled shoulders, marked with the crest of my lord's clan. Though I am a low-ranking samurai, I wear my lord's mon emblem with quiet pride. Next, I take up my swords, the daisho, my soul. Gently, I draw my katana a few inches from its black lacquered saya to inspect it. Even in near darkness, the steel catches glints of the waning moonlight. I see my own eyes reflected in the blade's surface. Satisfied with its condition, I slide the sword back until it clicks, and tuck both the katana and the shorter wakizashi into my belt on my left side. Their weight at my hip is reassuring and familiar. Fully prepared, I step out again into the cool twilight. In the east, the horizon begins to glow with a pale gold tint. The village beyond our fence is still quiet, but faint sounds carry. Someone chopping wood, an ox snorting awake, the distant creak of a cart. The world is stirring. I take a moment on the porch to stretch my arms and legs, loosening my shoulders and steadying my breath. In a little while, I'll be expected at the dojo yard for training, and I do not want stiff muscles to slow me. As I stretch, I recall the words of my first sword master years ago. Each day, a new beginning. Sharpen your spirit at dawn, like a blade on a whetstone. In these still moments, I feel the truth of it. The early morning is my whetstone, honing my mind and body for whatever may come. The discipline of routine gives me strength. The sky grows brighter by the minute, and the last star disappears. It is time. I breathe deeply, filling my lungs with the crisp morning air, and step off the porch. Gravel crunches under my sandals as I walk out to the road. The town is still mostly asleep. Few lamps are lit behind shuttered windows. A lone elderly neighbor is up sweeping his doorstep, and he bows when he notices me passing like a silent shadow. I tread past darkened houses and towards the castle quarter, where even the usual stray dog merely lifts its head in greeting before curling back up. Dawn's first light guides my path as I head toward the training grounds, ready to embrace the day. The sky grows lighter as I reach the training grounds, a wide, packed earth courtyard just beyond our lord's castle walls. A few of my fellow samurai are already there, stretching and loosening their limbs in the cool dawn air. We nod to each other in silent greeting. Despite the early hour, there is a quiet energy among us. In these moments before formal drills begin, camaraderie is expressed with simple smiles and the shared comfort of routine. At the edge of the yard stands our training instructor, Okubo-san, a stern middle-aged samurai with a grizzled beard. He is of higher rank, assigned by our lord to oversee the martial training of lower samurai like me. As the faint glow of sunrise brightens, Okubo-san claps his hands sharply. "Line up," he calls. His voice is firm but low, carrying authority without anger. We quickly assemble side by side on the cold ground, positioned by seniority. I find my place and bow deeply toward him. The others follow in a rustle of cloth. We begin with calisthenics to warm our bodies. Under Okubo-san's watchful eye, we rotate our arms, roll our shoulders, and twist our torsos. The morning chill soon gives way to spreading warmth in my muscles. Next comes sword practice. At a signal, each man draws his wooden practice sword, a bakken, from where it was tucked in his sash. In unison, we step into our stances. My feet slide into position on the familiar dirt floor. Left foot forward, knees bent slightly. "Men, strike!" Okubo-san commands. We raise our bakken overhead and bring them down in a swift, controlled cut through the empty air. The sound of a dozen wooden swords whooshing almost together is followed by the thud of our feet stamping as we complete the strike. Again and again, we repeat the basic overhead cut, each time focusing our minds on a perfect form. Hands steady on the hilt, blade angle precise, gaze forward. Soon, my breath falls into a rhythm with each strike. Ha! I exhale sharply with each downward swing, a short shout to focus my spirit. Around me, the others do the same, creating a chorus of breathy kiai shouts. The discipline of synchronized movement clears my mind of all but the present moment. Step, swing, exhale. Step, swing, exhale. The rising sun finds its way over the courtyard wall, casting long shadows behind us. Sweat begins to bead on my forehead, but I welcome the sting in my arms and shoulders. It means my body is being tempered. After dozens of repetitions, we pause. My chest heaves as I catch my breath. Okubo-san paces among us, adjusting a stance here, correcting a grip there with mumbled advice. When he reaches me, he gives a slight nod of approval at my form. I feel a small burst of pride. Even a low-ranking samurai cherishes the acknowledgement of a job done well. "Pair up," comes the next command. It is time for sparring. I turn to face my sparring partner, a younger samurai named Renzo, who often trains with me. Renzo is a head shorter than I, but quick on his feet and eager to prove himself. We bow to each other respectfully, then assume fighting stances. For a breath, we are still, two figures poised in the morning light, wooden swords raised. A crow caws from the castle roof just as Renzo lunges. He darts forward with a spirited cry, swinging at my left side. I meet his strike with my bakken, wood clacking on wood. The impact jolts up my arms. Renzo is strong for his size. I pivot, using my momentum to slide his blade aside and respond with a diagonal slash toward his shoulder. He barely parries in time, grunting under his breath. Dust swirls around our feet as we circle each other, eyes locked, testing for an opening. "Keep your guard up," I remind gently as I feint high, then strike low. My sword taps Renzo's thigh. If this were steel, he would be wounded. He hisses at his mistake, nodding in acknowledgement, but there's no time for apology. He retaliates with a flurry of quick strikes aimed at driving me back. I parry 1, 2, 3 blows in succession, the force jolting my wrists. He's pressing hard now. Rather than simply endure, I choose the moment to shift from defense to offense. On his next swing, I sidestep and counter with a decisive downward cut. My bakken stops an inch from Renzo's shoulder. He freezes, eyes wide at the realization that he's been bested. For a heartbeat, we stay like statues. Then I withdraw my wooden blade and step back, bowing to signal the bout's end. Renzo exhales and bows deeply, accepting defeat with grace. "Thank you for the lesson," he says quietly, breathless but respectful. I smile and clap a hand to his shoulder. "Your form improves each day," I reply encouragingly. In truth, I see my younger self in his determination. Around us, other pairs finish their bouts. Some samurai laugh and clap each other on the back. Others frown in concentration, replaying mistakes in their minds. There are a few bruises and sore knuckles, but those are worn like badges of honor. Sparring is not about victory alone. It is about learning and honing our skills together. Okubo-san gathers us once more for a final exercise. We sheathe our wooden swords and move to the archery range at one end of the yard. Long straw-wrapped targets stand against a dirt embankment. Each of us retrieves a Yumi bow and a set of arrows from the rack. Despite my arms being weary from sword drills, I relish this part of training. The bow requires a different kind of focus, patience, breath control, and a steady hand. Standing in line, we face the targets about 30 paces away. My feet find the proper alignment naturally, as they have since I was a boy. I notch an arrow to the string and inhale slowly. In my mind, there is only the target, a small black dot painted at the center of the straw bundle. I draw the bow up and back in a smooth motion, the wooden limbs creaking softly under tension. My world narrows. Exhale, release. The arrow whistles through the air and strikes with a dull thud, a hit, not dead center but close enough to satisfy me. All around, arrows thump into targets one after another. Some of the younger men struggle to draw the large bow fully, their arrows falling short with a puff of dust. I remember those days myself, when my muscles had not yet been forged by years of practice. I silently remind them between volleys to use their core strength, to breathe properly. With each arrow loosed, I feel my mind clear further, until the movements of shooting become as natural as a serene breath. In those brief seconds of draw and release, the world around me falls away. I recall my father placing a bow in my hands for the first time when I was a boy. "An arrow knows no fear," he told me as he guided my stance. At the time, I barely understood, but now I do. Archery is as much meditation as skill. The steady breath, the clear mind, the unity of body and target. These lessons echo in my ears even now, keeping my mind tranquil and focused. We continue until our quivers are empty, and the morning sun is well above the horizon. I wipe sweat from my brow with my sleeve. My arms ache pleasantly from the combined exertion of sword and bow. As we gather the spent arrows and return the equipment, Okubo-san gives us a rare smile. "Well done, everyone," he says gruffly. "A warrior who trains hard in peace bleeds less in war." Those words sink in, a timely reminder that our mornings of practice are not mere routine. They could one day save our lives. At last, training is concluded for now. We bow in unison to Okubo-san and to each other, a gesture of mutual respect. The group disperses, some heading to their posts for duty, others like me going home briefly to eat and prepare for the day's assignments. As I walk away from the yard, I flex my fingers, feeling the slight sting of forming blisters where the bowstring bit into my skin. It's a small price for keeping my skills sharp. The castle town around us is fully awake now. Smoke curls from cooking fires, merchants begin to open their stalls down the road, and children chase one another by the wells. Slipping my practice sword back into my sash, I make my way home at a brisk pace. My stomach reminds me with a gentle rumble that it's time for the first meal of the day, and the savory thought of warm miso soup and rice pushes me onward. Stepping back through the gate of my home, I'm greeted by the comforting aroma of breakfast. The door slides open, and my wife appears on the threshold, dressed in a simple cotton kimono with her dark hair tied loosely, our infant son bundled in her arms. She smiles when she sees me, the corners of her tired eyes crinkling with relief. "Welcome home," she says softly. I bow my head to her in gratitude and step inside, removing my sandals at the entryway. The warmth of the hearth fire and the savory scent of miso broth envelop me. I can hear the low simmer of rice bubbling in its pot. "Training went well?" my wife asks quietly as she shifts the baby to her hip. He reaches a tiny hand out toward me, babbling. I grin and tickle his cheek with a calloused finger, which earns me a delighted gurgle. "It went well," I reply. "Renzo gave me a good challenge today." I loosen my kataginu vest and set aside my practice sword. My wife nods, already moving to fetch a towel. She knows my routine. Gently, she passes me a damp cloth to wipe the sweat from my face and neck. I'm grateful. The well water is refreshingly cool against my flush skin. As I cleanse myself, I glance at our modest kitchen space. The hearth is sunken into the floor, a cooking pot hanging above the crackling fire. Steam rises as she lifts the lid of the rice pot briefly to check it. Beside it, a small clay pot of miso soup simmers, filled with tofu and spring onions. On a wooden tray, she's already laid out a few simple side dishes, pickled radish and salted greens. It's a humble meal, yet to my eyes, this morning feast is as rich as any daimyo's banquet. We settle around a low wooden table on the tatami floor. I sit cross-legged while my wife kneels gracefully, the baby now cradled in her lap. He coos, little hands waving at the light of the fire. Before we eat, we place our hands together and bow our heads briefly in thanks. A silent acknowledgement of gratitude for the food and for the peace of this moment. "Itadakimasu. Itadakimasu," I murmur softly, meaning I humbly receive. My wife echoes the phrase with a smile. With that, we begin our simple breakfast. I lift the lid off the wooden rice tub and scoop steaming brown rice into our bowls. The grains are hearty and fragrant. This is soldier's rice, unpolished and full of nutrients to sustain us through the day. I take up my pair of chopsticks and dip them into the miso soup next. The broth is nourishing and warms me from within. After the chill of dawn and the exertion of training, each sip feels like a gentle embrace. For a few minutes, we eat in comfortable quiet. The only sounds are the baby babbling and the soft clink of chopsticks against bowls. My wife feeds our son a bit of mashed rice porridge, laughing softly as he eagerly reaches for more. Watching them, I feel a swell of contentment. These quiet family moments are a treasure, fleeting in a life often demanded by duty. "How's the little one this morning?" I ask between bites of pickled daikon. The tart crispness of the radish balances the mild sweetness of the rice. "He's lively," she replies with a grin, bouncing him gently. "He nearly crawled out of his futon at dawn. I think he wanted to join you at training." I chuckle at the thought of our chubby-cheeked son swinging a tiny bakken. "Give him a few years," I joke. "Soon enough, I'll be teaching him kata in the yard." The image is both humorous and poignant. If war continues, what kind of world will my son inherit as a young samurai? I push aside the twinge of worry and focus on now, on the peaceful morning. My wife must sense the shift in my mood, because she changes the subject lightly. Today you'll be going to the castle, right? Yes, I confirm. I've been assigned gate duty and a patrol afterwards. I sip the last of my soup. I'll likely be in the town outskirts by midday. She nods, taking this in stride. She's been a samurai's wife long enough to know each day's schedule can vary with the Lord's needs. Be careful, she says almost absently, as she wipes a bit of spilled porridge from our son's chin. I will, I promise. Finishing my rice, I set the bowl down and let out a satisfied breath. My hunger is eased and strength restored. That was delicious. You honor me with such a meal each day. She flushes with pleasure at the compliment. It's only rice and miso. She demurs quietly. True, but made with care, I reply. I feel deep appreciation not only for the food but for her steadfast support. Many lower-ranked samurai struggle if they lack a strong family. I am fortunate to have a partner who keeps our home running smoothly, despite the modest stipend we live on. Outside, faint voices and footfalls indicate the town is fully awake and bustling. The baby yawns, his eyelids drooping after his own full belly of warm rice. My wife gently rocks him, humming a lullaby under her breath. I rise silently and gather my gear, taking care not to disturb the little one's drowsiness. I slip my arms back into the katakinu vest and straighten my kimono. My swords I place at my side once more, tucked into my obi belt securely. Before I leave, I kneel to my wife's level, placing a hand lightly on my son's downy head. He gazes at me with half-lidded eyes, and I feel the tiny grip of his fingers around my thumb. I press a gentle kiss onto his forehead, and then look to my wife. I'll return by evening, I assure her. She offers a small smile and nods. We'll be waiting. May your day be safe. With that tender send-off, I step out of our home and slide the door closed behind me. As I walk away, I can still hear her soft singing to the baby, fading gradually into the general buzz of the morning. My stomach is full, my heart is calm, and duty calls. It's time to serve my Lord and community with the energy this meal has given me. The streets of our castle town are bustling as I make my way to the main gate for my assigned duty. The morning sun has fully risen now, casting a golden hue over the clay-tiled roofs and white plaster walls of the town's buildings. I weave through townsfolk carrying on their daily business. A pair of merchants push a cart laden with firewood. An elderly woman with a bucket heads to the well. A cluster of children dart past playing at sword fighting with sticks until they notice me and pause to bow politely. I return the bow with a slight nod and a kind smile, which sends them into giggles once I pass. The castle looms at the north end of town, perched on a hill and surrounded by stout stone walls. Its wooden watchtowers and the sweeping eaves of the Lord's Keep stand proud against the blue sky. I approach the massive wooden gates bound in iron. There, a few fellow guards are already at their posts, spears in hand. They recognize me and wave. One of them, an older Ashigaru foot soldier named Daisuke, grins broadly. Good morning. Heard you gave young Renzo a thrashing in practice. He teases quietly as I join them under the gate's archway. I chuckle softly, taking my position. Just a friendly lesson, I reply. I adjust my swords at my hip and take hold of a spear propped against the wall, as is customary for gate sentries. The feel of the oak polearm in my hand is solid and reassuring. I plant its butt on the ground and stand tall. Our duty here is straightforward but important. Monitor those who enter and exit, maintain order, and be the first line of defense should any threat approach the castle. The gate is a choke point for all traffic, and while this is a peaceful morning, one never knows what the day might bring. For a time we stand watch in companionable silence, each scanning the flow of people coming and going. A farmer's cart creaks by, piled high with straw. We briefly inspect it for contraband at the Lord's order. Finding nothing amiss beyond a few sleeping chickens nestled in the straw, we wave the man through. Next, a small group of traveling monks in tattered robes approaches. They bow deeply and request entry to deliver a message to the castle's temple. I politely ask to see their travel permits, a formality, as bandits sometimes disguise themselves as monks. The eldest monk produces a rolled letter with the seal of a neighboring temple, confirming their purpose. Satisfied, we allow them inside, and one of my comrades escorts them toward the temple compound. As mid-morning approaches, the flow of traffic slows. The merchants and workers have largely entered by now, and it is not yet time for the lunchtime bustle. I take a moment to admire the scene beyond the gate. From here I can see the road stretching southward, flanked by rice paddies glinting with water. Distant green hills cradle our valley. On those hills, scattered farmsteads send up thin trails of smoke from cooking fires. It is a picture of tranquility, but I remain vigilant. The Sengoku-era has taught us that calm can be deceptive. Beyond those hills, rival clans vie for territory, and danger can ride down the road without warning. My thoughts are interrupted by a commotion just outside the gate. A young peasant man comes sprinting down the road, waving his arms frantically. Behind him, a second peasant hurries as well, shouting angrily. Daisuke and I exchange a glance and step forward. "What's all this?" Daisuke calls out as they near us. The first man, panting and wide-eyed, nearly trips at our feet. "Honored Samurai-sama, forgive the disturbance," he gasps, bowing so low his forehead almost hits the dirt. "Please, I seek help. My neighbor, he..." The second man, older and red-faced, interjects hotly. "He stole my water!" Diverted the irrigation to his own field. He too bows quickly to us, though his anger clearly overshadows his fear. "I beg your judgment, my lords." I raise a hand calmly to forestall further outburst. These two must be farmers from the nearby village, quarreling over the irrigation channels that feed their rice paddies. Such disputes are common when water is scarce or jealousy runs high. As a samurai, one of my peacetime duties is indeed to mediate these local conflicts fairly, a responsibility I take seriously. Both of you catch your breath and speak one at a time. I say quietly but firmly. The younger man is trembling, whether from exertion or fear of samurai intervention. I wait until they are calmer, then listen as each explains the situation. Heavy rains damaged part of the shared water channel last week, so water flow has been unreliable. The older farmer accuses the younger of breaching the channel this morning to divert extra water to his own rice paddy, leaving the older man's field dry. The younger vehemently denies intentional theft, claiming he only shored up a failing bank to prevent losing what little water reached his land. Their voices start rising again in accusation and denial. I hold up the palm of my hand. Enough. We will resolve this properly, I think, for a moment. Both fields need water. Punishing one excessively could ruin a harvest. I gesture to one of the other guards to take my spear, indicating I will handle this. Turning back to the farmers, I speak steadily, recalling the principles of fairness my father once taught me. Justice is not favoritism, it is balance. First, we will inspect the channel, I announce. Show me where it was breached. The farmers blink in surprise, but quickly agree. I inform Daisuke that I'll step out on a brief patrol to settle this. He nods. The gate is quiet for now. Walking between the two men along the dirt road, I learn more. Both have families and are desperate to save their crops. The pressure of the times weighs on even these simple folk. A bad harvest could mean ruin or starvation, especially when taxes, paid in rice, are due to our Lord. As we reach the edge of their paddies, the evidence is clear. A section of the mud embankment dividing their plots has been deliberately opened. Wet mud and water are smeared around the gap. I crouch and run my fingers through the mud. The younger farmer swears he didn't do it, insisting perhaps the storm caused it, but the cut looks clean and fresh, likely man-made. Perhaps in anger, the older man did it himself to frame the other. Or maybe a misunderstanding indeed. It's a delicate matter. Outright accusing either could breed resentment. After some thought, I stand. We will repair the channel together now, I instruct. I take off my Hari jacket and wade into the shin-deep water, motioning for both men to join me. Startled, they obey, hitching up their robes and stepping in. Together, under my supervision, we pile mud and reeds back into the breach, reinforcing it with stones from the roadside. The cool water soaks my hakama up to the knees, and mud squelches under my feet, but I ignore the discomfort. Before long, the flow of water equalizes between the two fields, a trickle to each side. Both farmers watch with relief as their paddies glisten with much-needed moisture. The older man, shoulders slumping, bows to me. Thank you, Samurai-sama. You are most just. The younger also bows, adding, I swear I did not cut it, but thank you for helping us. Truly. I nod and give a small smile. Work together from now on. The harvest of this village feeds many, including the Lord's household. You both share that responsibility. If there are further troubles, bring them to the town magistrate before taking action on your own. They bow again, chastened and grateful. With that resolved, I slog out of the paddy and rinse my mud-caked hands and legs in a nearby irrigation ditch. My trousers are wet and smeared brown, but such is the life of a samurai who serves not only in war, but in peace. I retrieve my jacket, and with a final nod to the farmers, who now head off together, conversing more amicably, I make my way back toward town. By the time I return to the gate, the sun hangs high and bright. Daisuke greets me with a raised eyebrow at my disheveled state, but I just shrug lightly and share a brief account of the mediation. He lets out a hearty laugh. They don't tell you about that in tales of samurai glory, do they? He jokes. I chuckle, wiping a last streak of mud from my forearm. Glory can wait. Rice cannot. We share a knowing grin. It feels good to have tangibly helped the people under our care. In truth, acts of service and fairness like this are as vital to our honor as any feat in battle. Upholding justice and compassion is its own form of glory. Such duties may not be glamorous, but they are essential to the harmony of our domain. Just then, another samurai from the castle approaches at a brisk walk. He carries a message from our captain. It's time for our midday patrol around the outskirts. I'm to join a small unit riding out to ensure all is well beyond the town. I acknowledge the order and quickly gather my gear. My legs are still a bit damp, but that can't be helped. In the castle stables nearby, I ready my horse, a sturdy brown mare named Keiji. She nickers softly as I stroke her neck and tighten the saddle. I swing up onto her back and fall in line with 3 other mounted samurai who will patrol with me. We exit through the gate, hooves clopping on the wooden bridge over the moat, and set out along the southern road. The patrol is a refreshing change of pace. We ride at an easy trot beneath the midday sun, scanning the roadside for any signs of trouble. The countryside rolls out in a patchwork of green fields and clusters of trees. The rice paddies shimmer under the high sun, flooded with water that reflects the sky. Egrets stand like white sentinels among the vivid green stalks, snapping up insects. Here and there, farmers in straw hats bend over their crops, their faces determined but turning up to smile or bow as we pass. Villagers we pass pause in their work to bow or wave respectfully. We nod in return. In one hamlet, a group of children runs alongside us for a short while, laughing and calling out greetings, until their mother shushes them and bows apologetically. We only smile. Their innocent enthusiasm is welcome on a long ride. Further on, we come across a broken-down cart by the road. Its axle has cracked, and a farmer and his wife are struggling to unload some heavy sacks of rice. We dismount to assist. 4 samurai appearing suddenly might ordinarily startle common folk, but our gentle offers to help soon put them at ease. Together, we lift the cart's weight enough for the farmer to prop the axle and temporarily mend it with rope. The wife offers us each a sweet rice dumpling from her pouch in thanks. It's a humble treat, but the sticky sweetness is a pleasant boost as we continue on our way. By the time our patrol loops back toward the castle town, the sun is past its zenith and beginning to slant westward. Apart from minor incidents and friendly exchanges, all has been calm. Such uneventful patrols are a blessing in turbulent times. It means our domain is safe, at least for now. As we ride back through the gates, I feel the day's heat and exertion settling into my limbs. My stomach gives a small grumble. Afternoon has arrived, and a brief rest or a meal would do me good. I hand Cage off to a stable boy with a grateful pat to her flank, then make my way toward a shady corner by the barracks to wipe the sweat from my brow and plan my next moves. The day is only half done, and already it has been full, but fulfilling. With the hottest part of the afternoon approaching, I find myself with a bit of time to spare and no immediate duties pressing. My feet instinctively carry me toward the small Buddhist temple, nestled in a quiet corner near the castle. This temple is a place of solace for many of us in town, a refuge of cool shade, hushed chants, and the scent of incense drifting on the air. I climb the worn stone steps to the temple gate, pausing to bow before entering the sacred grounds. Inside, the world seems to slow. Tall cedar trees cast flickering shadows across the mossy courtyard. A few monks in saffron robes sweep the pathway, their brooms whispering against the stones. They acknowledge me with polite nods as I pass. I have come here often enough that I am a familiar presence. At the main hall, I remove my swords as a sign of respect, leaving them at the door. Stepping inside, my eyes adjust to the dim light. The space is simple and serene. Golden afternoon sun filters through lattice windows, illuminating swirling motes of dust. In the center sits a lacquered statue of Kannon, the bodhisattva of compassion, gazing down with a gentle smile. I kneel on the cool floorboards before the altar. From an attendant, I take a stick of incense and light it from an existing candle flame. As the fragrant smoke unfurls, I close my eyes and bow deeply. In the silence, I allow my thoughts to settle. One by one, I recall the names and faces of comrades who are no longer with us. War has claimed many over the years. One face comes strongest to my mind: Satoru. My closest friend since boyhood, who fell in battle last autumn. We had stood side by side in the front lines, under a sky blackened with arrows. I still remember the moment an enemy spear found the gap in his armor, how he staggered, how I caught him as he collapsed. In the chaos and din of that battlefield, I could do nothing but hold him as his life ebbed away. His blood warmed my hands, even as his eyes, full of acceptance, met mine one last time. A year has passed, and yet the memory remains vivid as yesterday. Here in the temple's tranquility, tears prick my eyes, but I don't shy from them. I breathe in the incense and let grief wash through me like a gentle wave, then recede. In my mind, I speak to Satoru's spirit. You are not forgotten, my friend. I pray that he has found peace in the realm beyond, and I rededicate myself to living honorably in his memory. After some minutes of stillness, I silently recite a passage from the Diamond Sutra that a monk taught me. All conditioned things are like a dream, a phantom, a drop of dew, a flash of lightning. Thus we shall perceive them. These words remind me that life is transient, as fragile as the dew on morning grass. It's a sobering thought, but oddly comforting too. If death is an ever-present shadow, it makes each moment of life shine that much brighter in contrast. I place the incense upright in the ash of the burner, bow once more, and rise. My heart feels lighter, unburdened by a touch of enlightenment, and the acceptance that comes with it. Before I depart, I ring the bronze temple bell that hangs just outside the hall. Its deep tone reverberates through the courtyard, a call of compassion for all beings, and a prayer for peace. The sound lingers in the warm air long after the bell stops moving. Retrieving my swords and securing them at my side again, I step back out into the sun-blanched afternoon. The day is bright, but my soul feels balanced by the temple's cool serenity. On my way out, I encounter an old monk I have spoken with many times. He is trimming a cluster of azalea bushes by the pathway. Seeing me, he gives a gap-toothed smile. "Good day to you, Sakuma-san." He addresses me by my family name. "You look calmer than when you arrived." I return his smile and nod respectfully. Thanks to this place and its keeper. "How are the gardens today, Osho-sama?" I ask, using the honorific for a priest. He chuckles as he snips a stray twig. "The gardens thrive, as do you, I see. The camellias have started to bloom early this year, perhaps a sign of an auspicious season to come." I glance at the red-pink blossoms peeking through waxy green leaves nearby. "They're beautiful," I remark. "May their bloom indeed herald peace and prosperity." The monk studies me for a moment. "You carry many burdens in your heart, young samurai. But remember, even the fiercest warrior must find moments to set down his sword and pick up the brush or tea whisk. Such arts of peace nourish the spirit that wields the blade." His words mirror lessons I've heard before, yet coming from him now, they feel especially pertinent. I bow. "Thank you for the wisdom. I shall remember to practice the arts of peace." The monk nods and returns to his pruning. Cradling that thought, I exit the temple grounds and head toward the barracks. By now, the heat of the day is easing just lightly. Though the sun is still high, I find a shady spot under the eaves of the barracks building. There, I unroll a small mat and decide to engage in one of my favorite peaceful practices: calligraphy. From a wooden cubby inside, I retrieve my inkstone, inkstick, and brush, along with a few strips of rice paper. Sitting Saza style on my knees in the shade, I grind the inkstick against the wet stone, patiently working it until a pool of deep black ink collects. This repetitive motion is calming, another form of meditation. Once the ink is ready, I dip my brush, take a steady breath, and begin to write. Bold, flowing strokes emerge on the paper as I compose a haiku inspired by the day's events. dawn drills, blades whisper, rice fields drink, the midday sun bell echoes at dusk. I lift the brush, satisfied with the sentiment captured in these few syllables. The characters dry swiftly in the warm air. They are not perfect. My calligraphy is still a work in progress, but they carry my heart in them. I set the strip aside to later hang in my home Tokonoma alcove as a reminder of today. Feeling a bit parched, I remember the monk's mention of the tea whisk. Yes, a bowl of tea would be most refreshing now. Although I'm no tea master, I have the basics of chanoyu, the tea ceremony, from my cultural training. I head into a quiet room by the barracks that serves as a communal rest space. It has a kettle and a few tea supplies for any samurai to use on break. Finding it empty at this hour, I take the opportunity to prepare tea in a simplified ritual manner. I fill the iron kettle with fresh water and hang it over a small charcoal brazier. As I wait for it to boil, I carefully rinse a tea bowl and scoop a few spoonfuls of bright green matcha powder into it. The water soon reaches the proper temperature, small bubbles forming like fish eyes along the bottom, just shy of boiling. I pour a little into the bowl and use the bamboo chasen whisk to briskly mix the tea into a frothy jade liquid. The aroma of green tea rises, vegetal and soothing. Cradling the bowl in both hands, I carry it outside again to my shaded spot. I sit and quietly drink. The tea is slightly bitter, in a way that wakes the senses and focuses the mind. Each slow sip feels like harmony between the vigor of the tea and the calm of the afternoon. As I finish the bowl, a familiar voice calls my name from nearby. It's Renzo, the young samurai from the morning sparring session. He must have spotted me while passing. I motion him over and offer him a smile. "Care for a quick cup?" I ask, gesturing to the tea utensils. His face brightens with gratitude. "I would be honored, senpai," he says, calling me a senior. He kneels as I pour a second bowl from the remaining tea. I hand it to him respectfully. We share the simple pleasure of tea and a few quiet words. "You fought well this morning," I tell him after a pause. "Keep at it, and you'll surpass me one day." Renzo nearly chokes on his tea at the compliment, shaking his head. "I doubt that, but I'll try my best," he replies earnestly. We talk a bit about technique. He asks how I executed the counter that won our spar, and I happily explain the footwork in detail, even drawing a diagram on the ground with a twig. In this casual setting, under the warm, late-day sun, it feels less like instructing a subordinate and more like conversing with a younger brother. Renzo hesitates for a moment before leaving, then ventures quietly, "Senpai, may I ask, do you think we will see battle soon?" Some of the men have been murmuring. I study the earnest concern in his young face. Truth be told, I have my own worries, but I choose my words carefully. "A samurai must always be ready for battle," I answer, "but we do not fight for the sake of fighting. If war comes, we will do our duty. Until then, focus on your training and your present tasks. Worrying about tomorrow only weakens today's resolve." He nods slowly, absorbing the advice. "Hi, understood." I see the fear ease slightly in his eyes, replaced by determination. He bows again, more deeply this time, and I return the gesture. After finishing his tea, Renzo bows and excuses himself to continue his duties, thanking me again. I clean the tea bowl and tools, feeling quietly rejuvenated. With a peaceful moment still at hand, I unroll a fresh sheet of paper. It's been weeks since I last wrote to my mother in our home province, and I suddenly feel compelled to put brush to paper. Kneeling at the low desk inside the barracks, I dip my brush and begin a letter. I tell her that I'm in good health, that her grandson grows each day, and that our life here is humble but honorable. I choose my words carefully, avoiding any hint of the tensions we face. No need to stoke her worry. Instead, I paint a small scene of our garden and the sound of our son's laughter, hoping to bring her peace. I have written only a few lines when a messenger arrives, informing me that our Lord will hold a brief assembly at sunset for all samurai. The monk was right. These small moments of peace truly replenish the soul. I pack away my calligraphy set and tea things and stand, stretching the stiffness from my knees. Evening is approaching, and duty calls once more. I gather my swords and make my way toward the castle courtyard, mind and body refreshed for what lies ahead. The late afternoon sky bleeds into hues of amber and crimson as I make my way to the castle's main courtyard for the assembly. A gentle drumbeat echoes from the walls, a summons for all samurai in service to gather. I quicken my pace across the bridge and through the gates I'd guarded earlier, now as a summoned retainer rather than a sentry. Inside the castle grounds, dozens of my fellow warriors are converging, their silhouettes dark against the fiery sky. We arrange ourselves in neat ranks on the wide courtyard, kneeling on the hard-packed earth. The highest-ranking officers and elders sit toward the front near the raised wooden platform, while lower-ranked samurai like myself settle toward the back. Despite my distance from the dais, I can clearly see our Lord when he finally appears. Lord Katagawa steps forward in full formal attire, a resplendent dark silk kimono bearing the clan's crest, and a ceremonial dagger at his side. He is a man in his 50s, with sharp eyes and a commanding presence. He stands upon the wooden dais with the castle's main keep looming behind him in the dimming sky, a silent testament to the legacy and power we serve. Two retainers flank him, each holding aloft a tall banner emblazoned with our clan's crest, a silver hawk in flight against a field of midnight blue. The silk flags ripple in the evening breeze, a proud symbol of our Lord's lineage and the unity of those gathered. The murmurs in the courtyard die down immediately. A hush falls as every man, including me, bows low, placing our palms and foreheads to the ground in respect. "Raise your heads," Lord Katagawa commands calmly. We do so in unison. Though I keep my posture disciplined and eyes forward, from the corner of my vision, I catch the warm glow of torches being lit along the perimeter by attendants. The sun dips lower, and the courtyard is cast in a dance of golden torchlight and lengthening shadows. Our Lord's voice rings out clear and measured across the assembled ranks. "Loyal warriors of the Katagawa clan," he begins. "I have called you here as daylight fades to share important news and to commend your service." He pauses, sweeping his gaze over us. Even those far in the back, like me, feel the weight of the look and sit a little straighter. "First," he continues, "the harvest this year has been good. The stores of rice are ample, and the people prosper under your protection. For this, I thank each of you. Your diligence in peace is as valued as bravery in war." A ripple of pride stirs in my chest at his words. I think of the small role I played today in ensuring that prosperity, repairing the irrigation for the farmers. A subtle smile touches my lips before I compose myself once more. Lord Katagawa's tone then grows more serious. "However, these times remain uncertain. Our scouts report that the neighboring Harada clan has been mustering troops near our border. A collective stillness falls on the crowd. We all know the implications. The Harada are longtime rivals, There's no open conflict yet, our Lord assures, but we must be vigilant. Each one of you may be called upon at a moment's notice should negotiations fail or aggression come unbidden. I feel a faint knot tighten in my stomach at this confirmation of potential war. Memories of past battles flicker through my mind. The clash of steel, the cries of wounded men, the acrid smell of smoke. But alongside them rises a steely resolve. This is what we train for every dawn. This is the duty we have sworn. Lord Katagawa continues, I expect each of you to maintain readiness. Inspect your armor, sharpen your swords, and keep your spirit aligned with Bushidō. Our clan's honor and survival depend on our unity and preparedness. He then speaks of loyalty. As your lord, I swear to lead with justice and courage. In turn, I ask for your unwavering loyalty. Together, we form the bulwark that shields our families and our land. His voice, though not loud, carries a great conviction that resonates in the twilight air. A chorus of deep voices responds in unison. Hi! The affirmation, yes, erupts from every samurai present, including myself. The sound is thunderous, echoing off the castle walls. As our unified shout echoes against the stone walls, I recall the day, over a decade past, when I knelt in this same courtyard as a newly pledged youth. My voice had trembled then as I swore fealty to Lord Katagawa, vowing to serve him with my life. That youthful devotion has since matured into steady resolve, but its essence remains unchanged. I meant those words then, and I mean them now, the bond of loyalty only strengthening with each year of service. Lord Katagawa offers a final, more personal note. I am proud of you, he declares, his gaze softening just a fraction. Tonight, take pride in your lineage and in the path of the warrior. Cherish your loved ones and uphold our code, for these strengthen your heart. Dismissed. With a last deep bow from all of us, the assembly concludes. The Lord turns and departs with his retinue, as darkness truly settles over the courtyard. In the gloaming, we rise from our knees. There's a rustle of armor and clothing as men quietly begin to disperse. Voices low, but edged with both solemnity and resolve. As I stride out of the castle grounds alongside others, torchlight dances on faces that moments ago were stoic masks. Now I see determination, excitement in some younger ones, and the sober understanding in veterans' eyes. Conversations spark in murmurs, speculation about the Harada clan's intentions, sharing of plans to double-check weapon stores, a few light-hearted jests to cut the tension. I walked mostly in silence, absorbing all that was said. The prospect of conflict on the horizon weighs on me, but I also feel an unexpected calm. Perhaps it is the earlier meditations at the temple still steadying my soul. Death and war are not to be feared, but met with composure and honor, I remind myself. This knowledge lives in me alongside the natural urge to protect my family and comrades. Exiting the castle gate, I pause a moment to look at the sky. The sun has slipped completely behind the western hills, leaving a parting glow of deep orange. Above, the first stars emerge timidly in the indigo canvas of night. I draw in a long breath of evening air. It carries the faint fragrance of cooking fires from town and a hint of autumn's coolness to come. Before heading home, I decide to stop by the armory shed near the barracks. Inside the small wooden building, the quartermaster is busy handing out oil and whetstones to a few samurai. I collect a flask of lamp oil for my armor's leather straps and a fresh whetstone to refine my blades. The quartermaster, a wiry man with ink-stained hands from keeping inventory records, gives me a knowing nod. Sharpen well, Sakuma, he says quietly. We'll need every blade true. I nod in return. Indeed. Tucking the oil and stone into my sash, I depart. Though I cleaned and cared for my weapons recently, tonight I will give them extra attention. It is a ritual that focuses the mind as much as it readies the body. Walking through the town in the blue hour of dusk, I noticed lanterns being lit one by one outside homes and shops. The chatter of the day has softened to an evening murmur. People share news as they gather at doorsteps or head home with baskets of produce and goods from the market. I wonder how many of them heard whispers of the potential trouble with the Harada. Likely not many yet. Our Lord's words were for us, his samurai. For now, the townsfolk should rest easy, unaware of storm clouds that might be forming beyond the horizon. My own house is not far. As I round the last corner, I see its welcoming outline with light glowing through the shoji screens. Home, where my wife and child await, perhaps already preparing the evening meal. I feel an ache of gratitude and responsibility. Everything I do, every drill at dawn, every patrol, every risk in battle, is ultimately for the protection of that warm light and the loved ones it shelters. The day has nearly come full circle, from pre-dawn darkness to night's return. Fatigue tugs at my limbs, but I also feel invigorated by purpose. I gently slide open my front door, ready to spend a peaceful night in the embrace of family, knowing that tomorrow may bring new challenges. Inside of the house, the soft glow of an oil lamp illuminates a scene of domestic calm. The aroma of dinner still lingers in the air. Grilled salted fish and eggplant simmered in miso. My wife must have prepared it while I was at the assembly. Now she's quietly clearing away the dishes, moving with practiced grace to not disturb our son. The little one is nestled against her back, tied in place by a cloth wrap as she tidies up. He's already half asleep, his head lolling contently between her shoulder blades. I announce my presence with a gentle cough so as not to startle her. She turns and smiles, relief evident in her eyes at my return. "Welcome home," she whispers. The baby, hearing my voice, perks up with a tiny whine. My wife unties the wrap and carefully transfers him into my arms. I cradle my son, rocking him softly. He is warm and soft against my chest, smelling faintly of milk and innocence. His round face crumples as he prepares to cry, but then he blinks up at me, recognizing his father, and his tiny fingers curl into the fabric of my kimono. I wiggle a finger for him to grasp. He does, and a gummy smile replaces his pout. My heart melts at the trust and innocence in that smile. "How was the assembly?" My wife asks quietly as she folds a cloth. In her tone, I hear the unspoken question, "Is everything all right?" Wives of samurai learn to read between the lines. News of possible war tends to travel quickly among the women, even if unofficially. "It was a routine council," I reply, equally soft, still focused on the baby's drooping eyelids. I decide there's no need to burden her with every detail until necessary. Our Lord is pleased with the harvest. He reminded us to stay prepared, as always all true, though not the whole of it. She nods, coming to sit beside me on the tatami. For a moment, we both watch our child in silence. His eyes have closed now, tiny breaths coming in little sighs as he drifts asleep in my arms. I gently hand him back to her, and she carries him to his woven cradle in the corner of the room. With utmost care, she lays him down and covers him with a light blanket. He stirs only slightly, then continues sleeping, one small fist tucked near his cheek. We move a few paces away, settling by the lamp so our voices won't disturb his dreams. I shrug out of my formal vest and sigh, rolling my shoulders to release the day's tension. My wife pours a cup of barley tea and offers it to me. I take it gratefully, the cool, earthy taste soothing my throat. Her eyes fall to the new whetstone and flask of oil at my belt, and I see a flash of understanding. "There's trouble brewing, isn't there?" she murmurs. I hold her gaze for a moment, then give a slight nod. There's no use hiding it. She deserves honesty. Possibly. Our Lord mentioned the Harada clan's movements. Nothing immediate, but we must be ready. She lowers her eyes, hands clasped tightly around her own cup of tea. In the quiet, the muffled chorus of frogs begins outside, and a night breeze rustles the paper screens. War again, she says almost to herself. There's a tremor of worry in her voice that she tries to suppress. I reach out and gently cover her hands with mine. "Do not worry prematurely," I say softly. "No battle has come to us yet, and if it does, we will face it as we have before." I speak with more confidence than I truly feel, but I want to comfort her. She knows the risks. This is not our first scare, though it might be the first since our child was born. She musters a small smile and nods. "I will be strong," she replies, echoing the unspoken vow of many samurai wives. I catch a steely glint in her eye as she says it. My gaze drifts to the polished naginata blade propped in the corner, my wife's own weapon, kept ready though she prays never to use it. In her youth, she trained to defend the home, and I know if fate demands it, she will fight with the same courage as any warrior. "And I will pray for peace each day," she adds. "Peace?" I echo, letting the word linger. In this moment, watching the lamplight flicker across her determined face and the sleeping form of our son, I too pray silently for peace. To watch my child grow up without the shadow of conflict over every horizon. My wife must sense my lingering anxiety. After a few more sips of tea, she touches my arm gently. "Go on," she urges quietly, nodding toward the armor stand. "I'll finish tidying. Do what you need to." I nod gratefully. She knows me well. I set to work on a final task for the night, tending to my weapons and armor. Kneeling by the armor stand in the corner, I take the flask of oil and a cloth. Piece by piece, I inspect my gear. The lacquered cuirass, that has protected my body in battle. The helmet, kabuto, with its fierce crest now resting quietly like a sleeping beast. And the arm guards and shin guards with their laces slightly frayed. I pause at a shallow dent along the left shoulder guard, a remnant of a fierce spear thrust from the last campaign. I have polished it smooth over time, yet the mark remains visible, a subtle reminder of how narrowly death passed me by that day. I run the cloth lightly over leather straps, applying oil to keep them supple. The scent of oil mixes with the earthy smell of tatami and the faint incense from our family altar. My wife busies herself patching a small tear in my hakama from where a thorn snagged it on patrol. We work in companionable silence, the only sounds the soft scrape of the whetstone as I draw it along my katana's edge and the occasional crackle of the lamp's flame. This too is a kind of ritual of the samurai household, husband and wife quietly preparing for uncertainties to come, each in their own way. It's strangely comforting. When I finish, my sword gleams keen and my armor is set to rights. I whisper a brief thanks to it for faithfully shielding me thus far, then rise and stretch my stiff limbs. The hour has grown late. The frogs and crickets outside are in full nightly chorus now. My wife yawns and covers her mouth, the long day catching up with her as well. We decide to retire for the night. She gently lifts our sleeping son from his cradle. He fusses only a second before nestling against her shoulder. We make our way to the sleeping area separated by a folding screen. There, we lay out the padded futon bedding on the floor. By habit, I position myself on the side closest to the door, with my sheathed sword within arm's reach beside the bedding. One never knows if a midnight alarm will call me to action. My wife lays the baby between us on the futon for now, intending to transfer him back to his cradle once we're sure he's soundly asleep. We lie down together, the three of us forming a little circle of warmth against the night's darkness. I watch my wife softly stroke our son's hair, her face drawn with tenderness in the dim light. Before I extinguish the oil lamp, I take a final moment to reflect on the day. From the chill darkness before dawn to this gentle night, it has been full and meaningful. I think of the morning's training and the discipline it instilled, of the villagers I was able to help, of the quiet moments of art and meditation that soothed my spirit, and of the Lord's call to vigilance at twilight. Each thread, mundane or profound, weaves into the fabric of what it means to live this life of a samurai. "Thank you," I whisper, though I'm not sure to whom. Perhaps to fate, or to the spirits of my ancestors, or simply to my wife, who now looks at me curiously. "For this day," I add softly. She understands, I think, and she reaches over our sleeping child to squeeze my hand. I lean over and gently blow out the lamp. The room falls into soft darkness, relieved only by silver moonlight filtering through the cracks. In the stillness, I hear the distant tap of a night watchman's wooden clappers echoing from the street, a gentle reminder that all is well for now. The slow, even breathing of my loved ones beside me brings me comfort. As my eyes grow heavy, I send one last thought into the quiet. A samurai's life is often painted as one of glamour and glory in battle, but it is in these peaceful, private moments that I find my true strength and purpose. No matter what uncertainties tomorrow might bring, be it another day of peace or the drums of war, I will meet it with honor, courage, and a calm heart. With that resolve nestled in my chest, I close my eyes. The day comes to an end, and I embrace the rest the night affords, ready to awaken once more at the first light of dawn to continue the way of the warrior. Deep in the night, as our small home lies in silence, sleep gently overtakes me. In that quiet darkness, I drift into a reverie, part memory, part dream. I find myself standing in the training courtyard of my youth, but it is oddly transformed. Silver moonlight bathes the open yard, and a soft fog curls along the ground. The wooden dummies and targets are there as always, yet no other souls can be seen. All is calm and tinted in the pale glow of the moon. I look down and notice I am dressed in light training clothes, my feet bare on the cool earth. In my hand, I hold a bokken, the wooden practice sword of earlier. A gentle breeze stirs the fog, carrying with it the distant sound of wind chimes, or perhaps a flute. I cannot tell if it is memory or fancy. Across the yard, a familiar figure emerges from the haze. My heart catches in my throat. It's Satoru. He appears just as I remember him in our younger days, broad-shouldered and smiling subtly, with his hair tied back in a warrior's knot. He's unarmored, wearing only a simple robe and hakama as we often did for practice. Strapped at his side are his daisho swords, glinting softly. For a moment, we simply face each other under the moon's gaze. Emotion swells within me, joy to see my friend again, mingled with the ache of knowing this is but a dream. Satoru raises a hand in greeting, and I find myself walking toward him across the silent yard. "Couldn't sleep either, huh?" he says, in the same teasing tone he used on nights we stayed up talking as young recruits. His voice is clear, not echoey or distant, as one might expect in a dream. It is as though he is truly here. A lump rises in my throat. I must have a lot on my mind, I reply quietly. We both know what I mean. The weight of duty, the specter of war, and his absence all burdened my heart. Satoru tilts his head, eyes kind and curious. "Shall we spar for old times' sake?" He moves to the weapon rack at the edge of the yard and picks out a second Bakken. He tosses it to me. Instinctively, I catch it, just as we used to, sneaking in extra practice under moonlight whenever we could. A smile touches my lips, and tears prick my eyes simultaneously. I nod, unable to form words, and take the stance we practiced countless times together. Satoru mirrors me a few paces away, knees bent, wooden sword held high. For a moment, neither of us moves. The night breeze sighs through the pine trees around the courtyard. Then, with a spirited shout, more of joy than aggression, Satoru lunges. Our wooden blades meet with a crack that echoes in the quiet night. The force of it vibrates in my arms, yet it feels effortless, like part of a familiar dance. We trade blows slowly at first, then faster. There's no anger or intensity, only flow. Each strike and parry feels predestined, as if we are performing a well-rehearsed kata rather than dueling. Our movements kick up small swirls of mist around our feet, and the moonlight traces arcs with our swings. At length, our swords lock and we come face to face. Satoru's eyes shine with vitality. I realize I am smiling broadly, and a light laugh escapes me. When was the last time I laughed like this? Perhaps when Satoru was still alive. The thought would usually bring sadness, but right now, in this moment, I feel only warmth. We step back into unspoken mutual agreement to pause. Both of us breathe evenly, not winded in the least. A luxury of dream or youth, I cannot tell. Satoru lowers his Bakken, and I do the same. "You've kept your form, my friend," he says, grinning. "Still quick on your feet." I chuckle. "And you haven't lost your touch in the afterlife, it seems," I reply softly. At that, his expression grows gentle. He walks up and places a hand on my shoulder, a gesture he often did to reassure me before a battle. "I'm proud of you," Satoru says quietly. A familiar tightness catches in my chest. I miss you every day," I manage to say, voice trembling. He nods, squeezing my shoulder firmly. "I know, but do not mourn me forever, brother. You live, and in living well, you honor my memory more than any tears shed." I bow my head, eyes stinging. Sometimes I fear I won't be strong enough without you by my side. A breeze tousles Satoru's hair as he responds. "You are stronger than you realize. Every dawn you rise and carry on. Training, serving, protecting those you love. That is true strength." He pauses, letting the words sink in. The night around us seems to hold its breath. He gives me a playful smirk and pats my shoulder again. "Do you recall the night before our first battle? You shook so hard you nearly dropped your sword," he teases. I actually laugh, thinking back to that terrified teen I was. "I remember you nearly jumped out of your armor when the thunder started that night," I counter. He chuckles, a warm, familiar sound. True enough. But by dawn we stood calm, side by side. We found courage in each other that morning, and we always have. He squeezes my shoulder. "Remember," he continues, our code, our purpose. We fought to secure a future for our people. That future lives through you now, through every kind act, every swing of your sword made in justice. I have no regrets, and you should have none either. I lift my gaze to meet his. There is such clarity and peace in his face that my sorrow ebbs, replaced by an overwhelming sense of gratitude. I place my fist in my opposite palm and bow deeply. Thank you, Satoru. Your spirit guides me always. When I straighten, the fog is thickening, beginning to shroud his form. The moonlight dims slightly as a cloud passes overhead. Satoru takes a step back, sheathing his wooden sword as if it were a real blade. Time to go? I ask, my voice half choked. He gives a tiny smirk, the one he'd flash right before beating me in a match. Dawn approaches. You have another day to greet, my friend. He turns and starts to fade into the silvery mist. Panicked at the thought of losing him again, I call out, "Wait!" He glances over his shoulder. Will I see you again? I ask, my voice echoing slightly. Satoru's silhouette is almost one with the fog, but I hear his parting words clear and calm. I live in your heart every day. Whenever you need me, I'll be there. With that, he lifts a hand in farewell and is gone, dissolving into moonlight and mist. I stand alone in the courtyard once more, the two bakken lying crossed at my feet. A profound serenity washes over me. I feel not loss, but comfort. Satoru's presence lingers like a warm glow. I tilt my head up to the night sky, noticing the clouds have cleared to reveal countless stars. One streaks across the darkness, a silent arc of light. I close my eyes and make no wish, feeling that in this moment, I have already received what I needed. A distant rooster crows, its cry oddly both from this dream world and my reality. The fog begins to lighten, the first hints of pre-dawn brightness seeping into the sky above. I awaken slowly, eyes opening to the very first gray light of morning, filtering through our shoji screens. The rooster's crow still echoes in the real world outside. My wife and son are still asleep, curl against me in the gentle blue dawn. I remain still, savoring the calm. The dream's emotions cling to me like dew. A tear has traced down my cheek during the night, but it is a tear of release. I breathe in deeply and let it out, feeling a renewed peace within. Outside, another day is beginning. I gently extricate myself from the bedding without waking my family and sit up. The memory of Satoru's voice still whispers in my ears. You are stronger than you realize. In the pre-dawn hush, I bow my head and silently thank whatever benevolent forces allowed me that midnight reunion. Perhaps it was merely my own mind finding clarity, or perhaps his spirit truly visited. Either way, I carry forward his blessing. By the time the sky in the east grows pale gold, I am dressed and ready, my heart steady and eager to serve anew. I step out onto the porch where cool air greets my skin. In the east, the horizon brightens, promising a fair day. The last stars retreat as pastel hues of pink and orange blossom across the sky. A light mist clings to the earth, slowly giving way to the sun's gentle warmth. Behind me, inside the house, I hear my son stirring with a little cry, and my wife's gentle voice soothing him. Life begins again, in its simple, precious way. I close my eyes for a moment, recalling the last image of Satoru fading into the mist. I live in your heart every day, he'd said. I touch the hilt of my sword and nod to myself. Yes, he and all that I cherish live in my heart and give me strength. So it continues, I whisper to the morning light, a faint smile on my lips. Another day in the life of a samurai has dawned, and I am ready to meet it, come what may. I step down from the porch and onto the familiar path leading toward the dojo. The same path I walked yesterday and countless days before. The morning air is cool and filled with the promise of new beginnings. As the sun's first rays spill over the rooftops, I cast one more glance back at my home, at the silhouette of my wife swaying gently as she lulls our baby inside. I bow my head in silent gratitude for them, for this life. Then, with swords at my side and resolve in my heart, I turn and walk forward into the rising light, prepared to embrace whatever the new day brings.